Today, we're diving into the story of a dog that's, well, it's literally built for survival. A breed created in the vast, unforgiving Australian outback by mixing a loyal farm dog with a literal wild animal. Let's talk about the Australian cattle dog.
So, have you ever wondered what happens when you combine the herding smarts of a British collie with the raw, tough as nails survival instincts of Australia's native dingo? The answer, as we're about to find out, is a working dog that's just legendary. There's really no other way to put it.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to look at how they were forged in the outback, dig into their dingo heritage, see how the breed actually split, understand what makes them tick today, and finally, talk about what it's really like to live with one of these incredible dogs. Okay, so let's picture this. It's the 1800s in Australia. You're a cattle drover, and you've got this massive, stubborn herd of cattle you need to move across miles and miles of just brutal, hot, rugged land. The dogs you brought over from Britain, they're just not cutting it. Not even close. You need something different, something way tougher. And right there, from that desperate need, we get the breed's most famous nickname, the healer. And it's not about being aggressive or mean, it's all about function. Their signature move was this quick, quiet nip right at the heels of a stubborn cow. It was just the perfect, low-stress way to keep the whole herd moving. So, if you're one of those drovers, how do you even begin to create the perfect dog for this impossible job? Well, it took some trial and error, for sure, but the real answer came from a pretty radical idea, looking not to another farm, but out into the Australian wild itself. This whole thing didn't happen overnight. It was a process. It all kicked off in the 1840s with a guy named Thomas Hall, who had the wild idea to cross his working collies with actual tamed dingoes. Then, a few decades later, a drover named George Eliot is tweaking and refining that cross. And finally, in the 1890s, the Bagoose brothers step in to really standardize the breed, even mixing in a little Dalmatian and Kelpie to get it just right. Okay, so let's break down the recipe. Ingredient number one is your tough, hardy British working collie. Think of this as the operating system, right? These dogs came pre-installed with all the essential software, that amazing herding instinct, and, crucially, a deep-seated willingness to work with a person. But the real game changer, the absolute secret ingredient, was the native dingo. So what did the dingo add to the mix? Pure, raw survival. We're talking insane stamina, a body that's literally built for that brutal Aussie climate, and, this is key, they worked silently. All things that British dogs were missing, but were absolutely vital for the job. Okay, so here's something really interesting that a lot of people just don't know. As this amazing breed was taking shape, it didn't just go down one single road. Nope, it actually split, creating two different types. And that split, that difference, you can still see it today. So, on one hand, you had the original working strain, a bigger, tougher, sturdier dog, built for one thing and one thing only, getting the job done, no matter what. But then, as time went on, you get this more refined version, what we mostly think of today as the Australian cattle dog. A little more balanced, bred to be a great companion, and even a show dog, but, and this is important, without ever losing that working fire in its belly. So you take all that history, all that intentional breeding, what do you end up with? What is this dog like today? Well, let's dive into the modern healer's mind, because everything about them, their personality, their smarts, even their health, it all ties directly back to why they were created in the first place. The first thing you absolutely have to understand about these dogs, they are wicked smart. I mean, seriously. In that famous book, The Intelligence of Dogs, they rank number 10, 10th out of hundreds of breeds. We're talking top-tier, genius-level intelligence here. They pick things up scary fast. And all that brain power fuels a really complex personality. For starters, their energy level is just off the charts, and their minds are always working. They absolutely need a job to do. Plus, you've got that dingo-inspired independence streak. They're problem solvers, which, let's be honest, can be a challenge sometimes. They also form these unbelievably tight protective bonds, and yeah, that old healing instinct, it's still in there. Don't be surprised if they try to herd running kids or the family cat. So you've got this super smart, high-energy dog. What on earth do you do with it? Simple. You give it an outlet. These guys are incredible athletes. They absolutely thrive in demanding dog sports like agility or flyball, anything that challenges their body and their mind. It's what they were born to do. And make no mistake, they are still amazing workers. Sure, plenty of them are still on ranches, herding cattle, but that incredible intelligence and drive, it's opened up a whole new world of jobs for them. We're seeing them as service dogs, in therapy roles, sniffing out drugs. You name it, they can probably do it. And what about just as a family dog? Well, all that working history makes them one of the most loyal and protective guardians you could ever ask for. They're usually a bit wary of strangers at first, but their bond with their family is just rock solid. They are always watching out for their people. Okay, let's talk health. Generally, these are tough, hardy dogs. A lifespan of up to 14 years is pretty great, but they're not bulletproof. The very genes that give them their cool coat patterns are unfortunately linked to a risk of deafness. They can also have issues with their eyes, like PRA, and, well, when you live life at full throttle like they do, it's no surprise that sprains and strains are pretty common. And that risk of deafness isn't trivial. To put a number on it, one big study showed that almost 11% of them are affected in one or both ears. And what that really means is, if you're looking for one, finding a responsible breeder who does all the right health testing is just absolutely non-negotiable. Which brings us to the big question. What is it actually like to live with one of these dogs? Because let me tell you, it is not like owning most other pets. It's more like a partnership. You are taking on a piece of living history, and that history comes with some very specific demands. So, what does this partnership look like day to day? Well, for starters, intense exercise. Every single day. It's not a suggestion. Next, you have to keep that big brain busy. Puzzles, training, dog sports, give them something to do. Third, you've got to be consistent with training. If you're not, trust me, this dog will run circles around you. And finally, get them out meeting people and seeing things early on. Socialization is so important to help them feel confident and manage that natural caution they have. I think this quote just absolutely nails it. This isn't a dog that needs a big pack of other dogs to be happy. Their entire world really just revolves around their person. It's this incredibly intense one-on-one bond. It's why people call them Velcro dogs. They are loyal, they are protective, and they are pretty much always right there by your side. And that's really where we land. The Australian cattle dog wasn't an accident. It was engineered, forged for a specific, demanding purpose. It's not a blank canvas waiting for you to paint on. So if you're thinking about bringing one into your life, the question you have to ask yourself isn't if it needs a job, it's what job, what new purpose are you going to provide for that incredible mind and that unstoppable body?